Hey, what's up, y'all? Dorney Park and Wildwater Kingdom opened in 1884 in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it's been going strong ever since. This park is nice. They've got a nice collection of coasters overall. They've got some nice flats. Two underappreciated rides, in my opinion. They are Talon and Hydra, both of which we'll discuss in more detail in just a few minutes. And I was lucky enough to visit the park for opening day this year in 2018, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And overall, I had a good time. So I'm going to give some of my impressions, both good and bad, of what I experienced while I was at the park. And you can decide for yourself what you think. So the good. One really nice thing about this park is it's very old, and I like that in a park. I like when they have mature trees, old buildings, and it's just pretty to walk around. They've got some nice old rides too, like this old school free fall, which I was surprised to see. I forgot that this was here. But like I said, it's just nice to walk around the park because it's very pretty, especially in the springtime with everything blooming. And I was lucky enough when I visited that the park was pretty much empty. When I got there maybe were 4 or 5 other cars in the parking lot, and even though it cleared up a little bit later in the day, the crowds were really light, and I was able to experience everything as much as I wanted to. So that's always good. The location of the park itself, where it's physically located, is sort of down in a little valley off the highway, and it's cool when you drive in because you're driving in on this highway and you can just look over to the side and see Dorney Park there, see everything, all the coasters and everything. It's a neat location. And the design of the ride itself is cool because it's one big loop with a few shortcuts around through from side to side, and that makes it just easy to get from attraction to attraction. And like I said earlier, both Hydra and Talon, I think, are underappreciated gems. They're not the biggest or tallest. They're mid-sized B&Ms, but they both have unusual layouts for B&Ms. They're not cookie cutter. And Hydra starts with this great JoJo roll, which is not found anywhere else as far as I know. And it's a fun start to the ride, and both of them are just really enjoyable. And Talon, surprisingly, at least in the back seat, has some airtime, at least 2 or 3 spots of airtime on it. So that's always fun. The operations of the park were decent when I was there. I say that with the caveat of that meaning the operations of the ride themselves. The line that I waited in to get my Platinum Cedar Fair pass was a little bit ridiculous because it took about 30 minutes and I was the second person in line. And some of the food stalls were a little bit ridiculous because the one I went to, for example, you placed your order at a kiosk and picked it up elsewhere, and it was just seemed to be a lot of chaos going on. So that's probably something they need to work on. Maybe it's just opening day jitters. So that's the good stuff about the park. There were some things that I found maybe a little bit annoying or a little strange. Lots of the rides weren't open yet. I guess that's understandable considering it was the first day of the season, but when you've got a bunch of coasters that are either not open or are opening late, it's a little bit annoying and you have to walk all over the place. Not the end of the world, though. Possessed. They used to stop this ride on the tail spike, and they don't do that anymore, unfortunately. I know a lot of these coasters don't do that anymore, but that was really the highlight of the ride, man. Being that high up in the air and stopping and falling forward on your restraint was just a sensation that's almost can't be reproduced anywhere else, and it's a shame they don't do that anymore. One of the things, though, that this park really needs, this is one of the problems I had with it. It has a nice collection of coasters. Like the Thunderhawk here looks like a good ride. It's a very nice ride to look at, but it's just not that spectacular. And then overall, I think that's a problem that the park has. It's got a lot of good, fun rides, but it doesn't have anything that stand out and that's going to draw people from more than the region, as far as I can tell. So I think they really need a standout coaster. And then a really odd thing happened to me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to mention it or not. But when I went to the bathroom at one point, an employee stopped me when I came out and actually asked me if he could borrow some money. And I mean, I felt bad for the guy. I have compassion for people, but he gave me a story about he and his son. But it was just a little bit odd, and so maybe Dorney needs to talk to their people about how they speak to guests and so forth. But I didn't let it spoil my day by any means. Overall, I had a good time. I think if you're in the area, say you're in Philly, and you have a day to kill, you could definitely do worse than Dorney Park. Like I said, they have some good rides. You'll have a good time. So I would definitely recommend it overall if you're in the area. Otherwise, that is it. That's my review of Dorney Park. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I will talk to you next time. Enjoy the ride.